and welcome to another episode of Talking Business. It's a series that we started about a month ago where we were inviting small business owners to come online for a conversation around what's going on with their business, sharing experiences, successes, some challenges that they've had in the wake of the pandemic, and really creating a forum for being able to share stories. And for us as content presenters at the SBDC, it was really a challenge for us to take a look at the way that we're presenting our content and information. And as we're giving advice to clients to really be nimble and agile in their business model, we really took a look at our own programming and asked, are we being responsive to the current needs in the marketplace? So this is one of a number of new series that we're offering. So every Wednesday at 11, we're doing interviews with small business owners, and our consultants are conducting those interviews. So my name is Angela Atkinson. I'm director of the North Metro SBDC. And for those of you who don't know what the SBDC is, we offer free one-on-one consulting to small businesses. So you can go to our website at northmetrosbdc.com and book a session with a consultant. We're really fortunate to have two of our lead consultants on today. So you can take a look at Adrian's bio and also Megan's and book an appointment directly online with them. So we're really excited to have Adrian and Megan today. A couple of little housekeeping things is on the right side of your panel, you will have an opportunity for Q&A at the end. So type your questions in the question panel, and John will come back around and ask questions that you might have. And yeah, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adrian and let him introduce himself as well as Megan. So welcome, everyone.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be back. It's been a couple of weeks, but these have been going really well. We appreciate all the feedback from you guys. Each one's getting better because of each one of you. So thank you again for that. So my name is Adrian Hovey. I'm a lead consultant over here at the SBDC, and I'm also a financial advisor with Edward Jones. And today we're sitting down, we're going to talk with Megan. She's also a consultant with SBDC and runs her own business here locally. And I think in previous webinars that we've done, we've kind of focused a little bit more on, hey, what's been the impact of COVID, and we're gonna shift gears a little bit today and talk more about Megan's journey creating her business and how she uses data-driven digital marketing analytics to help other people's businesses. And she's got some great advice for each one of you out there today. So, Megan and I have been working together in various capacities for 3 years. She worked with Rep Fitness, which is a local Denver company, and has been doing their digital marketing strategy for a while now. And under their tutelage, her and her company Labyrinth, they've doubled their revenue, and that company is now on the Inc. 500 list. So they do an awesome job. Megan, I'm going to turn it over to you to tell everybody a little bit more about your company, and then we'll just launch right into it and talk about your journey to an entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adrian. I'm Megan Bortner. I am the co-founder and chief digital strategist for Labyrinth Digital. Like Adrian said, we're a small marketing consultancy here in the Denver, Boulder area. We primarily serve scaling e-commerce businesses, and we support those businesses in 4 main ways. One on the strategy consulting side, so thinking through, I really want to find new customers, or I really need to work on customer retention. We build the plans for that. The second area we do a lot of support is around analytics. So think about yourself as a business owner. You might get tons of different reports, or you have to dive into Google Analytics and it's overwhelming. We sit down with you, ask what's really important for you, and define those metrics, and then put together one digestible report for that. And then the other ways we support businesses is on marketing technology. So thinking through what marketing technology platforms do you need to achieve your goals, and then we can set those technologies up for you as well. And then finally, we help with digital marketing execution. So we run campaigns on Google, on Facebook, help with email marketing, so whatever is required to help you achieve your goals.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. So I wanted to just kind of get started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, because you have a pretty interesting story and an interesting background. I wanted to start there so we can kind of lay the groundwork for what's to come.
Sure. So yeah, currently now I am that marketer, but I think one thing is really important to mention is I'm somebody that's super passionate about entrepreneurship. That, like Angela says, I help out with the North Denver SBDC as a lead consultant because I love working with business owners and hearing your story and helping you achieve your goal. And I think the reason for that is I come from a family of entrepreneurs. That my dad ran his own business. My grandpa started and ran his own business. I've seen uncles and aunts run businesses as well. And it's just been so awesome that I've seen all of those people that are role models in my life use their businesses for good in the community, whether that's hiring interns and showing them like ways that they can have, helping them accelerate their careers, or using profits to give back to the community. That it's something that I've just seen through my life, and I'm super passionate about using business to help the community.
Yeah, I think that is one of the more interesting parts for me, because I had no interest in doing what my dad did for a living. So when I was growing up, I didn't want to have any part of it. So given your background and what you saw in your family, when did you decide that you wanted to run your own business or own your own business?
I think kind of just from a young age, I go to work with my dad, and I love going out with him on like sales calls, and I love that he knew everybody in the community. So I think there was always a little part that knew, and I was pretty entrepreneurial even as a young age. I had a couple businesses that maybe weren't so successful, trying to sell, like I was a farm kid, so trying to sell my dad's meat to whoever would buy. I think I was on like organic beef before it was even like a popular thing. So yeah, I think I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur at a pretty young age.
I love it. So yeah, selling organic meat to digital marketing is quite the jump. When you were finally ready for college, did you know what you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to be in business, but I think just seeing my dad run his own business, I didn't realize there was such like defined roles when you study business, that there was your marketing track and your supply chain track and your marketing like operations. So I was like, business was for sure the path, but like where I wanted to hone in was a little bit more windy. But I absolutely fell in love with marketing classes from the beginning. That I just love that human behavior behind things, of why do people do what they do? How can you motivate them to do things that you want? So that was really interesting. And then as marketing started to go more digital and there's more like science behind it, I found it even more fascinating. So it was pretty early on that marketing I discovered was the passion.
Yeah, it's interesting. One thing I hear from a lot of clients at the SBDC, and just from my own work with other entrepreneurs, is that they don't always know what exactly it is, how they're going to apply that desire. But that desire that you described is very common, right? People know, like, hey, I want to run my own business. There are things that I want to accomplish. Not sure what those are just yet, but I want it to be mine. And it's it's interesting to hear everybody has this kind of their own journey to whatever it is that they end up building their business. So okay, so fast forward a little bit. After that formal education, what did you do then?
Yeah, so after school, I actually moved to Chicago. I graduated in a pretty tough economic time, and I graduated from both Purdue and Bradley University. Bradley was my undergrad in marketing, and I did continue on to school for Purdue University. Both being Midwest schools, had a lot of ties to the Chicago area, and started my career in marketing research, looking through the data, trying to find white space opportunities, and advising big brands on what should be that new product that they're going after. How do they talk to different customers? So that's where I ended right away. But I always knew I wanted to be in Colorado, that I'd grown up coming out here for family vacation. My aunt and uncle live up in Aspen, so we'd always like done the skiing, the hiking thing. So it's just kind of always looking for an opportunity to come out to the great state of Colorado.
Oh, yeah. So I guess we'll forgive you for your Midwestern roots, and glad to have you out here now. Okay, so you got to Colorado. Were you? Did you just hit the ground running with your own business right away, or was there like a transition between, like, hey, I'll maybe work here? What happened
so like
there?
I said, I definitely did want to come out to Colorado and always kind of browse the job boards. And I found what I was a role I was super excited about. It was a company called Epsilon. They do a lot of data-driven marketing. They're a leader in like CRM, but just for everybody's knowledge, if they haven't heard of it, if you went to a mall, they have about 70% of the store's transactional data that they use, and companies will share anonymously that data, and then you can use it for targeting. So you could find more customers that look a lot like yours. So anyway, I got hired to join Epsilon, and my role was as a digital strategist, which meant I'd work with brands on how do they use that data that they have, what type of data would they want to overlay to understand who their customers were better, and then what channels once you know who your customers are, what channels do you want to use for thinking about finding new customers, and what channels do you want to use for customer retention. So it was a really fun role. Got to really get my hands dirty with a lot of data, as well as started to learn what were really those best-in-class methodologies that big companies were doing in terms of digital marketing.
Okay, so just to kind of recap a little bit, you had formal education, you had a great job here in Colorado, you're living in the place you always wanted to live, you're close to family, so it sounds like you're killing it there, but always in the back of your mind is, well, I'm gonna start my own business. So what, sounds like things were going well at Epsilon. What happened? What was the catalyst? Why did you decide to go from that to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it was actually really great working at Epsilon. Not only was it a really fun job, I ended up meeting what today is my business partner. So at Epsilon, they had digital strategists work really closely with data scientists. The data scientists would be the ones like writing the code, making all the data work and actually activate it. And there was one data scientist that I worked really closely. Her name was Ronnie Maloney. And we both kind of realized we had entrepreneurship aspirations. Her husband ran a small acupuncture firm for the last 17 years, and they were really connected with the business community. And we kind of learned that both of us shared that passion. And then at the same time, we were starting to see marketing technology move really fast. So things that the really big companies used to pay thousands or even $1 million budgets for, some of that technology was starting to be able to be used with Google Analytics, with some of the advanced email platforms like Klaviyo. And we thought, if somebody really knew how to use this technology, as well as they really knew marketing really well, there was opportunity to take what big businesses were doing and scale it down so that scaling businesses could do almost what enterprise was with a shoestring business. So we were super excited about it. We saw there was an opportunity in the market and started kind of chasing that dream and exploring to see where that would go.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. When you're building a business plan, or you're this budding entrepreneur and you have these ideas, a lot of the focus gets put on what's the pain point or what's the customer need, and this is an interesting one for you. So if I understand correctly, you saw the technology was moving very quickly, right? It's out there. There's these very powerful data analytics tools are available, but now you've got technology outpacing smaller and medium-sized companies' ability to leverage. Right? Is that kind of you're saying, hey, that's the way we knew right away we could take our expertise and apply that to smaller companies?
Yeah, it was definitely that, as well as a little bit, we were seeing other of these smaller agencies emerging, but we felt like they were using all these buzzwords and they were overcomplicating things. And then we knew business owners needed marketing, and they also knew they needed digital marketing, but we felt like they never knew what they were buying, and we really wanted to be really clear and transparent with the people that were working with us. And we were just like felt really angry at the people that were starting to see that as a market too, that we felt like not being fair, or like they didn't do the education that was needed. So we thought the technology's there, we can do it, and we can do it better, and we can help. We felt like we could help a lot more.
Yeah, and I know that's getting a little bit ahead, but I do remember that from the Rep Fitness days. I mean, that was absolutely something that company had never seen before. Never even thought that it was accessible to them. So for you guys to come in there, be a local company, and show them, that's very powerful. So okay, so you met Ronnie at Epsilon. You guys have a few coffees together. Develop this great idea for business. How do you end up translating that desire into reality? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. We, like I said, Ronnie knew a lot of business owners, and I knew a few myself. And as we were kind of thinking through, how do we get this going? How do we make it a reality? We knew it would be important to kind of like seek out mentors, people to like help us along the way. So we actually took the owner of Rep Fitness out for dinner, more with the intention of just like, how did you do it? What's your story? Things like that. And we got a lot of that information, and we also started telling him what we were thinking we were going to do. And he's like, man, we're at this point that Rep Fitness is really starting to scale, and it seems like what you guys do could be really helpful for us. Why don't you think through how you would help us, and we'll talk and see if we can actually work together. So we took him up on it. We put together a plan, and we started working with him a little over 3 years ago now, and Rep Fitness still is a client today. So that's been really, really great that we got to learn working with him, as well as we had a client even before we left our jobs that it was helped make Labyrinth be successful.
What was in your head? What was your mental state when you guys just decided, hey, we're cutting ties with Epsilon, and we're finally gonna just take that leap off into the unknown? What was going through your head there?
Yeah, I think that's a question every entrepreneur takes if they're like starting with, I have my full-time job and I'm doing this on the side. Like, when's the right time to leave? For us, we had that client with Rep Fitness. They were really starting to grow. We were putting a lot of thought behind like, how do we scale our services? We also needed to be available for them. That we'd taken them on in October, and they're an e-commerce company. Little did we know how crazy November and December would be because of Black Friday and holiday sales. So we were definitely working a lot, wearing a lot of different hats. And Rep Fitness at the time was saying they like really wanted to scale, that they had more work for us. So we felt like with a steady client in our portfolio, as well as we did have quite a bit of savings, and we at this point had written our business model and were feeling good about it, had a website off that. It was like time to really chase our dreams and see where it was going to take us.
And you had no problems at all with the uncertainty?
I think it's always for me, I'm single by myself. I like been pretty like financially like saved quite a bit of money so that if things didn't go well, I'd be okay for a while. And I always thought like worst case scenario, I could find another job. For my business partner, she has 2 kids and is a little older than I am. I always felt really nervous for her that if we couldn't make Labyrinth work, that she had to pay for kids and had a lot more responsibilities than I did. So I think I had almost more concern for like her and her livelihood than I did for myself.
No, I definitely understand that and empathize with it. A lot of folks I've talked to are in exactly the same position. I mean, some people are, this is something they've been saving for years and years and years. And then some people are like, you know what, I'm ready. I'm feeling it in my heart. I know now's the time. The rest will follow. And I think, just hearing your story, I'm hoping we can give courage to some of those people who are kind of, on the fence and not really sure if now is the right time. It sounds like you never really know. There never is a best time. It's just kind of maybe when you feel like you're confident enough in your business model and your plan. So, all right. So tell us, kind of sum up what's happened since you guys you transitioned off of Epsilon into your new you started your own business and you've got a client. What's happened along the way, and where are you guys at today?
Yeah, it's a great question. Overall, things have gone pretty well for Labyrinth. It's been smooth that we've grown steadily, but fairly slowly. That what we do is very customized solutions, so that we have to be pretty mindful of how much time we have before we can take a new client on. But yeah, over the last 3 years, every year we've managed to double our sales, which has been great. In August of last year, we brought on our first full-time employee. So she's been with us now almost a year, which has been really exciting. So overall, it's been a good story. I will say the last 2.5 months have definitely been a roller coaster ride, maybe we could say. That it was always at like a slow, steady growth, and then March happened. We had a really big client that we've been serving for about 9 months at that time in a 40-hour-a-week capacity. This client was in the automotive industry, and for those that aren't familiar, a lot of the auto plants shut down their plants with COVID coming on, and some of the dealerships were even shut down there. So our client's been like scrambling, trying to navigate this uncertain times for them in an industry that's been impacted pretty hard. So we went from working 40 hours a week on this particular client to having no work there, and that all happened in about 2 weeks' time. We went from having thought we were signing another year-long contract with this client to having no work at all. At the same time, one of our clients is pretty heavy in the home gym industry, and getting home gym equipment probably was second hardest to finding toilet paper during the first few weeks of COVID. So the client ended up selling out of pretty much every product. So they had no need for digital marketing services at the time. The focus was mostly around customer service as well as getting more inventory in place. So that retainer went from a pretty large engagement to pretty small. So yeah, we went from like growing pretty steady, everything was good, to like, what's gonna happen next? Like, where's Labyrinth going? So it's that was definitely been a hiccup. But I think when like there's curveballs for sure, what we've done as a business is we really kind of came back together as a team and we said, man, what are we gonna do? Like, sales is really the focus right now. That we've lost a ton of work, but we know that digital marketing, as people start to realize, is something really important. That if you can't go into the stores, for example, that you need to be able to sell online. So we knew there was going to be a need for us. We just had to find those clients and be able to communicate it well. So the last couple of months, we spent a lot of time like redoing our marketing materials, reaching out to contacts to try and turn our business around. And just at the beginning of May, we did pick up 2 new clients. So it's starting to turn around and go in the right direction.
Yeah, that's excellent to hear. Sounds very stressful. I think, we've been hearing stories like this. We've been hearing stories like this throughout. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this call, we don't want to dwell too much on the impacts, because we're all feeling them. We feel them every day. Everybody understands this is a tough time. Nobody's come out of it unscathed. And I think, having you here in particular with the SBDC is very important, because, your skill is top of mind for everybody right now. How do we reach clients? How do we use information, tools, resources? What's the best thing we can do, right now? How do we make an immediate impact? All these things are swirling around in all of our minds. So you've got a deep experience in digital marketing. What are some areas you're going to recommend for people on this audience, and ways that you bring your expertise to SBDC? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think advice for small businesses and thinking about digital marketing, I think one of the most important things is data. That it just helps move your decision making from guesswork to having a lot more facts behind it. So easy ways to start and things that are free. For example, there's Google Analytics out there. So if you're in that stage of, I haven't even launched a business, but you'll have a website, make sure you put that on your website. For the business owners out there that have a website, make sure Google Analytics is there. And if it is there, get in the habit of checking it on a weekly or every other week type of basis. That it's going to start telling you how are people finding your website. So are they finding it from your social presence? Are they finding it from organic search? Are they finding it in like your email marketing program? Is that for example, is that the driver behind it? For businesses, in terms of data, for businesses that are a little bit bigger, if you do have a social platform, Facebook is really great for understanding who your customers are. So you can go in on Facebook into the Audience Insights tab and see who are the fans of your business. So that's going to help you with thinking through how do you spend your marketing dollars more wisely for finding customers that are likely to buy or use yours for their service. Secondly, I think another thing really important, especially in times of COVID where budgets have been pulled back, is thinking about your email marketing program. So one, I think email is super, super powerful because of all the marketing tools. It doesn't have any ad spend behind it, and you also have the ability to talk to your customers on a one-to-one basis, that you could segment your campaign and make it super personalized for that one type of person, which is really, really great. The other thing behind email, once you start capturing your email addresses, it is that unique identifier across your digital network. So if you have a lot of email addresses, you can upload it, say, to Facebook or to Google and use that for targeting those customers to talk to or building lookalike models to find new ones. So even if you're not ready to really have a whole email program, I definitely encourage you to start capturing your email addresses because it's going to pay dividends whether you want to advertise to them or when you're ready to start building that email program. And then finally, I think it's really important to use your free resources. That we have to be scrappy as small business owners. And kudos to everyone for being on this call, that you guys know that the SBA is a resource. And like Angela said in the beginning, we do have free consulting services so that you can book with me or with anybody a session, and we can help you, whether that's flushing out your idea and you're just getting started, or you've been in business for a while and you're maybe getting stuck on thinking about scaling and how do you get to the next level. We're here to help you with that. And then in terms of other free resources out there, I think on the digital marketing front, Google is a really powerful tool to market to people, but they also provide a lot of free resources within their tool called Skillshop. You can get Google Ads certified, you can get Google Analytics certified, so that you can learn some of those fundamentals yourself and you don't even have to pay a dollar for it. So I think those are some really great starting points for people in terms of thinking about digital marketing.
Great. I want to just recap some of that real quick. So it sounds like, if you're interested in digital marketing, or if you want to, make the most impact right now, get on to Google Analytics. Make sure it's connected to your website. Understand how Facebook collects data and how you can use that to understand your customer. I just wanted to, you said that, and I remembered something that I learned long ago, which is everybody thinks they know who their customer is, but you kind of want to know who your customer is. And that's something that data-driven analytics can reveal. So it's very important to just kind of, dive in there a little bit, spend some time understanding who's actually interested in your product and service. And then finally, email marketing, make sure you're capturing those email addresses, whether or not you have a plan for it, lay the groundwork now so that when you get to a stage where you can deploy whatever plans you've made, you have that base, that foundation of information. And then of course the free resources over at the SBDC, almost all of us have marketing experience. We can definitely help. Megan is clearly the expert. So, whatever she says goes, but, we're here, we're available to help whatever stage your business is in. And when you get to the point, where maybe you're a little bit larger, you need a little bit more help, somebody like Labyrinth Digital can kind of come in and help you really just maximize those tools. So now we know what to do. Megan, what are the common mistakes you see all of us making, right? You've probably seen it thousands of times. Like, what are we doing wrong right out of the gate? Let's address that.
So I think especially in the early stages, we know we need customers. We know we need revenue. So so easy to think, oh, I just want to go and do something. But I really encourage everybody to step back and really think, whatever you're going to do, what's the objective behind it? So, for example, if you're going to run an advertisement on Facebook, what's the ideal goal? Is it just getting people to your website? Is it getting someone to purchase? Is it getting someone to sign up for your email address? So taking a minute to think about, why are you doing this, and defining what's going to be success, so that at the end of the day, whenever your budget runs out or it's over, you can evaluate, did that work? Did that not work? Did it somewhere in between? What can I do better? So I think that planning and thinking about the why and making sure it ultimately goes back to what your marketing and what your business goals is, aligning it versus just jumping in. And that can even, I guess, the example was pretty small in terms of running a campaign. That can be even thinking through, what platform should I be on? So I know there's a lot of questions out there that, oh my gosh, there's so many social media platforms. Do I have to be on all of them? I'd say, once again, think about, what's your business goals? How much time do you have to manage these platforms? Where your customer is going to be? And then thinking through prioritizing based on that type of information. Secondly, another thing I see a lot in marketing is not thinking through the whole customer experience. So maybe back to that same example of, you're running that ad on, say, Facebook, and you've decided that you want to drive revenue from it. That's great. But then think about, not only is that ad good, does it have a clear call to action, but then thinking about, what's the experience once your customer gets to your landing page? Does it reflect what the advertisement says, or are you just sending them to a page that doesn't correlate at all? So I think planning the whole entire customer journey and thinking about the whole process, not just like one tactic, will really go far and help your marketing dividends pay off. And then finally, I think it's really important, I guess what I see people do wrong is not prioritizing. That is overwhelming. There's a ton of things out there. You hear your friend's businesses doing tons on, say, Google ads. You're like, man, should I be on there? And you like run and start doing it, versus maybe prioritizing it. That I only have 2 people in my marketing department and they don't have any of this type of expertise. Do I really need to be there? So I think it kind of goes with like defining your objective, but also like prioritizing what you're doing. That all of us don't have tons of time and tons of money. So taking that few minutes for planning is really important.
So I picked up on a couple of themes there. One of them might be, you can't do everything, right? Or maybe you can't do everything well. And Megan's point about prioritizing is very important, because all of us, we can control a couple of things, right? We can control our own attitudes, we can control our own activity. And I think if you stay focused on activities that produce the results you want, whether it's with marketing, sales, what have you, then that's how you can actually attach goals to these things and define success and measure it. And if you're it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole of, hey, I heard about this, I heard about Twitter, I heard about Facebook, whatever, and without they're all great tools. They all have a specific purpose, and they're they can be leveraged for a certain thing, but without a strategy and without an overall prioritization, it's a tough one. Without having that in place, it's very hard to win anything. You'll end up doing 20 things poorly, when really you can stay focused on a couple of things, high priority items that we talked about, email marketing, Google Analytics, those things, and really make a difference and drive something different that you haven't seen before. So I think having a strategy, understanding that you're not going to be able to do everything you want right away, and really just thinking hard about, what am I trying to accomplish, what can I accomplish, and where do I want to deploy my resources more specifically. So hopefully that gets you all thinking about your own cases and your own situations, and maybe gets the wheels turning a little bit. I imagine there are tons of questions out there. So Megan, let's we've been kind of going through a lot of stuff for everybody. Let's pause for a second. John, do you want to let us know what questions we've got from the audience here?
I do. Yeah. Thanks for the intro. Hi, everybody. My name is John Hovey. I'm the Special Projects Consultant here at the SBDC. And with this show, I work behind the scenes as a producer. And you are correct. We have some questions that have come in.
All right, what do we got?
Let's see what we got. All right, from Karen, we have, oh, be careful, Adrian. You're a New Yorker, not a native Coloradan.
I'm not even a New Yorker.
That's true.
I've lived there.
Throwing shade on the Midwesterners. Okay, so how do we, as a small business owner, get and find that data? I think you did address that, some of those different platforms. Let's see.
Let's actually just real quick, since that was a specific question, how do you find it and get that data? Megan, is that Google Analytics delivers that to you? And maybe just give us a little more color on how that works.
Yeah, so if you have Google Analytics put in the code of your website, you can sign into Google Analytics, and then it's really powerful. There's like a lot of different tabs that's starting to look. I think specifically looking on the channels tab and then seeing where your traffic's coming from is a really good first step. That starts to tell you, is my traffic coming from, say, social? Is my traffic coming from email? Is it coming from organic search? And then another really important metric when you're looking at that is something called bounce rate. So the lower a bounce rate is the better. Bounce rate is somebody that comes to your website and only looks at one page and doesn't spend any time on there. So you don't want people just coming to your site and then going away. So that person that's gone through several different tabs, that low bounce rate, that is good. That means you're attracting the right traffic and they want to engage with you. Where if you're seeing it in the 80s, 90%, that means you're not telling them what they need to know. So you're either paying for the wrong traffic or your traffic maybe is right, but you're not giving them the information that they want.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like if that was your question, you need to start by enabling that or installing that code on your website and setting up a Google Analytics account that's going to collect that information for you. So that would be your basic entry-level steps. And I'm sure Google has all these instructions, but that's where you want to start is enabling the ability to capture that. Awesome.
Fantastic. Okay, Nathan asks, he says, I have a very small business, a one-man editing operation. And then he gives us the address. This is great. We're going to give you a free plug right now, Nathan. It's www.inkwell.org. And there's a hyphen, inkwell.org. He says, I have a small advertising budget, $60 a month. What should I be spending this on? I tried Google Ads for 6 weeks, and I received 0 business from that.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes back to thinking through where your customer is going to be, and then also looking through on some of your data. So if you do have some of that information, how have you gotten your customers before? So has it always been from, maybe it's already you haven't spent anything on social, but maybe people are finding you from that? Then building a campaign that's really structured, really, really specific, so making sure things are targeted in like the right geograph that you'd want somebody just around here, that you're just making sure the information is as specific as possible, as well as you are on the right channel is important.
Yeah, and so that might mean, that might mean taking a look at your current customers right now and just maybe grabbing a bunch of a list of them and figuring out common characteristics, right? Commonalities, demographics, whatever. And like Megan said, that's where you're going to base your targeting on. So you want to find those people, find where they're at. Are they searching for your work on Google, or are they somewhere else, right? And that, I think that's what we mean is figure out where these people are, and that gives you the ability to use a channel that can get to them quickest or most effectively.
Great. Camille asks, could you please repeat the name of the Google Skills program? So we're talking about Google Analytics, is that correct?
Yeah, so for Google, they have for training, it's called Skill Shop. So you can go on there and there's lots of different training for Google Ads, for Google Analytics. When you get more advanced, there's like Google Tag Manager and Google Optimize. And you can go through and take the little video training, or if you want to take it to the next level, there also have certifications that you can get to like really be fully like truly competent on the channel.
Great.
Karen asks 2 questions. Does SBDC offer a basic Google class? And so currently, from a programming side, we don't have a Google class, but we're going to look into that and see if there's interest in the community. But that would be something, correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian and Megan, that someone could schedule an appointment with a consultant for, to at least get an intro in that.
Yep.
Here's a question. Is LinkedIn a good marketing tool? It seemed to start as a networking outlet and recruiting tool, ... So thoughts about LinkedIn?
Yeah. So in terms of answering that question, I think it once again comes back to where would your customers be? So if you're, let's say you're maybe an accountant or a lawyer, your customers probably are on LinkedIn, and you really can fine tune who you're at. One of the awesome things about LinkedIn is that it has the most data for being very precise in terms of targeting. So if you know what the job title, for example, is of who you are selling to, you can get at it through LinkedIn, where Facebook or Instagram might be a lot harder for that. One caution to think about for LinkedIn is it's a lot more expensive than some of your other channels like your Facebook or your Google, that you're going to be paying quite a bit for your click. But if you have the budget and you know that your audience is on the channel, it can be something that's really good for you. And one other thing to think about when you're thinking through social advertising is organic's really important as well. It's really good to advertise, and social gives you the ability for really precise targeting. But if you're not on the channel already in terms of like managing customer service, if you're not having posts there, you're advertising to somebody, but then once they come to your homepage, they're going to see that there's no content there, and it's going to raise a red flag. So before maybe jumping into paid, make sure that you've done a little bit of work to make sure your organic site has some presence.
I actually want to add on to that a little bit. I use LinkedIn quite a bit, and like Megan said, it is more expensive than some of these other platforms, and it's actually a lot more expensive than it used to be. So there used to be levels, like a very simple way to, get access to the LinkedIn Premium, and now they've doubled or tripled that price, and they've niched it out, depending on how you want to use it. So there's a pretty heavy cost associated if you're a power user. On the flip side, it's definitely a unique platform from all of the other ones in many of the ways Megan said, but also because people are there to do business on some level, right? A lot of folks, use it to find new jobs and things, but it's a business related platform. So it is a good way, especially in the service related industry, to reach your customer and at least be able to understand, where they are, who they are, and what they're, what they might be interested in. And you can oftentimes reach out directly to them. So that's a nice feature. It does cost a lot. But whether or not it's appropriate for your business, I think I would maybe start with what Megan said and understand if your customers are actually there using that platform to find people like you, or are they just there because it's a professional networking thing that they do.
Fantastic. Hey, Donna asks, as a new business, and this is great, this ties back to one of your keys, Megan. As a new business, how do I obtain emails, gather these addresses, and send an email campaign? Do you recommend any techniques or platforms for that?
Yeah, once again, there's a gazillion different email marketing platforms that are out there, and doing a little bit of research in terms of what platform makes sense based on the business you're in. My expertise is pretty deep in e-commerce. One of the email platforms that we love is Klaviyo. But I think pretty much any email platform that you end up working with, they give you the ability to have some type of pop-up on your website, and it's just drag and drop type of play, and you can choose the timing and like the information. So for example, somebody that's first time to your website, maybe you want to have a pop-up on your site and ask for their email address, versus somebody that's a returning customer, you don't need that pop-up. And then somebody that's on your email address already, you don't want to be bombarding it. So thinking through the logic, but most of the email platforms out there have some level of adding that pop-up onto your website, or you can put it in as an embedded form on the bottom.
Gotcha. So pop-ups are good. You have to ask for email addresses, right? You've got to
Mm-hmm.
let people.
Yeah, that's one more thing. One thing to mention is email marketing. Someone has to agree to be on your list to send them any type of marketing email. So like your newsletter or welcome to the family, things like that. Someone has to say, yes, I want on it. You cannot just put someone on their list. There's a big risk of fine there. That doesn't hold true for transactional email. So by that, I'm meaning somebody that purchased something from your store and you're sending them their receipt. Anybody, as long as you have their email address, can receive that, but you have to be very careful on the marketing side of emails.
Great. Related question. This one came in actually before the webinar on our registration page. But what is your opinion of newsletters? I worry that they simply annoy our customers who are engineers and scientists. This question comes from Mary.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're afraid of ignoring them, I'd maybe step back and think about your content. Are you telling them something of value? But if you are going to have an email program, it's important to have a regular cadence in talking to your customers for a few reasons. From the technical side, if you stop emailing very regularly, it can put a flag up to like your Gmail and your Yahoo that this is a sender that we don't recognize. Maybe it should go into spam. But if you have a regular cadence, your Gmails and your Yahoos are used to you sending communications. Secondly, just email today, when the content within an email can be really powerful and good for your brand, but just that little from line, even if they don't open it, your business is staying top of mind with those people that you care about, that every so often they're seeing your name in their inbox, and when they are ready to reach out for service, you've done a little bit to stay relevant. So I guess long story answer is having a frequent cadence is good just because of the technical side, and making sure your content is something that you want to hear. So think about, are you sending something that you yourself would be interested in? Then it's probably not ignoring your potential customer. So I think those are good rules to live by.
I'd even take it a step further too, and try to think about what do you want to happen after that email goes out, right? What do you want to happen after you deliver that information? So in my industry, I would want to send something timely and interesting, and then try to reconnect with this person in some way down the road and say, hey, I thought you were going to be interested in this thing that I sent you. Are you in fact interested? Do you want to talk about it? Does it concern you? And that way, the newsletter, the email content that you're sending out gives you a foil, as it were, to go back and have a conversation with somebody. So it's going to be industry dependent, but I think if you're talking about professionals, they are or are not going to be interested in something, and you'll never really know unless you have a kind of strategy to find out. So that might be a way you can say, hey, am I really bothering these folks, or are they in fact getting value out of it and I just don't know because I never asked? It's another option.
That's great. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a data-driven way to see if you're annoying your customers with a newsletter as well. If they're unsubscribing from your newsletter, then you're sending something that's of no value. Is that fair to say, or is that not?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of email KPIs that help indicate if someone's engaging. The first one is what's your open rate. So that's the amount of emails that were delivered versus people that clicked in and like loaded the content. The second thing is when your open rate's good, that means somebody wants to hear from you. The next metric you can look at is your click rate. So thinking back to what Adrian said, are they doing what you wanted them to do? So like if you think on the retail side, it usually says shop now. Are they ending up clicking that shop now and going to your website? And then you can even track with Google Analytics, how long are they spending on your website? So those are good flags of, is my content relevant? And then the like big red flag is if you're seeing lots of unsubscribes or people marking you as spam, that means you're really ignoring them. But before you even get to that stage, open and click rates are good metrics to look at.
Awesome. One question was the email platform you mentioned, Klaviyo. Is it just they want to know how to spell it? Clavio?
It starts with a K, Klavio. I think if you're on the B2C side for a small budget, it's one of the most powerful tools out there. In terms of being an email marketing nerd, a lot of email platforms are set up as list-based, and Klaviyo is set up on a profile list basis. So it really gives you that ability to say, I want to email this communication to somebody that's purchased, that hasn't engaged, been on my website in, say, several months. You can send them something, where a lot of other platforms is a lot more manual of a process. So I think it's really great, especially if you're B2C.
Camille also asks, what's a good open and click rate target? What do you shoot for?
Yeah, so once again, it comes back to what's your industry, but most of your email providers have published some type of benchmark. Sometimes it's even within the tool, you can look at what your benchmark is and see. Rule of thumb, 10 to 15% on open rate. If you're above that, you're good to go, but that does vary it can vary by industry.
Great. We're coming up on our time limit here. So I've got maybe one more question from the audience, and then we'll probably wrap it up and talk about some upcoming programming. And for the audience, if this was useful to you, then of course, give us that feedback, and we can always run a follow-up show. Last question comes from Jamie, and asks, how often should you be updating your website content? Any schedule tips for that?
Once again, that kind of goes back to like, it depends and prioritization, not to sound like a broken record. I think one thing you can look at is like that bounce rate. Like, are people bouncing from your website? That means you're not serving a purpose. Another thing is like asking how much resources do you have? Is updating your website the most important thing, or is it spending that time on maybe getting your newsletter up and going? So like asking where your goals are. But I think it's looking at the data and thinking what your priorities are. I don't know if there's necessarily a rule of thumb on that, and then making sure that content's still true to what your business does and relevant there.
Perfect. So people need a tailored strategy. Adrian, closing thoughts?
A couple. I mean, if I always like to take notes and think about themes, right? Think about major takeaways. I think one theme is that you definitely need a strategy, right? And it doesn't need to be a complicated strategy. It doesn't need to have elements of everything we've talked about today. But the idea is that you have one, and you're working towards that strategy and some goals that will support that strategy, right? So simple goals for people to think about is, if you don't have an email program, maybe your goal for June is to create one in whatever form makes sense for your business, right? Or maybe it's, hey, I don't really understand my data, so I'm going to take some simple steps. My strategy is to have data-driven marketing enabled by the end of the year, and the goal that I'm going to do in June is I'm going to set up Google Analytics. And start with something, some little thing that you can realize some success from, right? You can say, hey, I set up Google Analytics. Now I have some data, and then run with that win. Run with that win and build that program. Get to know that tool and move on to the next part. But don't feel like, because it's very overwhelming. I've been down this road, and I know that that there's 10,000 things I should be doing. I can do about 4 of them. So I'm gonna focus on those 4 that I can do, and get some little wins, right? Gain some confidence, gain some experience. Grab an hour with Megan, or grab an hour with me, or any of the other consultants at SBDC, and work on those little incremental steps that you can do that are right for your business. Because if you listen to what Megan's saying, every business is different, and if you say, well, 10 to 15% is the open rate that I need, is it? I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. So know your business. You guys know your business is the best. Know that there are many things you can do, but maybe the best thing is to think about, hey, what are the 5 things I'm going to do this quarter, or the one thing I'm going to do in June to really make a difference and move forward. So don't get lost in the sauce, guys. There's easy wins you can do, and just reach out, ask for help. We're here for you guys when you need it.
Yeah, definitely on my side. I'm just so happy that I had the opportunity to share a little bit of my knowledge, and definitely love talking about business. So feel free and schedule something. One thing I forgot to mention that I meant to in terms of free resources, if there's any nonprofit people on the line, Google does have a free nonprofit grant that it's for $10,000 free of ad spend if you are a registered nonprofit, and you can get that, and that can really help your business. Yeah, so feel free to reach out, schedule time with any of us. We're always happy to help. And if you are a scaling business and you're really ready to take things to the next level, you can always reach out to my company, Labyrinth Digital. We're also happy to help you elevate your marketing.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for being on Talking Business this week. Adrian, thanks again for hosting our show. And I've put a couple notes in the chat panel for the audience. Please do visit labyrinth.digital, check out Megan's site, and please do feel free to make an appointment with any of our consultants. That would be great. We're also very excited about next week. We have 3 awesome webinars coming up that I would encourage you to register for immediately if you can. The first one is on Tuesday, June 9th. That's going to be at 11 a.m. Our attorney and legal consultant, Margaret Lent Parker, is hosting a webinar all about reopening your business legally. So legal compliance, everything from insurance and protections for yourself, your workers, all the way to just giving yourself an overall legal health check. How is your business doing? Do you need an attorney? Do you not need an attorney? So that's going to be a very good presentation. We also have Talking Business on Wednesday. That will be featuring our CPA consultant, Lauren Kmetz. She owns and runs Antora CPA. She'll be on here answering your questions about the services of an accountant and what they can do for you. That's going to be very informative. And we're introducing a new series next week, also starring Adrian Hovey, called Market Matters, where we'll be looking at economic trends in the nation and how they matter to the small business owner. So join us for all those. The registration links are in your chat panel. This webinar will be broadcast on our YouTube channel as soon as I can get it uploaded. And thanks again to our audience. We'll see you next time on Talking Business. Thanks a lot.